Welcome to the CoDaKrew podcast match week 7 predictions for the Premier League. I've been under the weather lately, and unfortunately we weren't able to do a video last week, but even though you can probably still hear the soreness of my throat, we are finally back. Our scores from last episode have been updated on screen, and to compensate for missing the last match week, we are adding 10 points to each of our scores. But with nothing else to say, let's get into it.
Yeah, okay. Let's get to our first match, first week back. And we are going to start with Bournemouth, who are now, I think, 5 games unbeaten in the league, and they're looking to make it 6 as they host Fulham.
Yeah, man, ever since that first loss to you guys in the opening week, they have been looking quite solid. I think there were a lot of things we could have said about their defense. It was quite shaky, and I think now, even though they're still conceding goals, I definitely see the back four being a lot more cohesive. And even though Adam Smith is out, who is their right back, their backup, Alex Jimenez as well, I think has been pretty decent filling in that role. So I think Bournemouth have now really strengthened themselves defensively. They're really playing back into Ariel's system, and now they're looking like the same upper mid-table team that they were last year, despite the fact that many people had them finishing lower mid-table, potentially even being in a relegation fight.
Yeah, dude, their resilience is remarkable, on display once again. Krupi stoppage time strike to salvage a 2-2 draw. What they would have hoped for, I guess, in their first game against us, but now that last minute goal has finally done them a favor. And I've talked about Iraola's aggressive style before, and he is continuing to give these cherries a very clear, strong structure. You have Christie Adams to provide legs in midfield. Semenyo is a driving force. He can press, he can carry the ball forward, and the team is still able to dig out late goals just as they were at the start of the season. They've got not just spirit, but that also shows that there's a lot of good depth on their bench as well. Krupi is just now the latest player to step up from them. And at home, like they will be for this fixture, they have been particularly effective. They've kept things compact. They find ways to strike at the right moments. And that defensive organization, combined with their very opportunistic attacking play, remains a reliable formula for points for them. And I think they will use it to full advantage in this match here.
Yeah, not only have their defense been a lot more solid, they have been doing quite solidly on the build-up. Diakite and Senesi have been pretty solid. They have been very strong in, pushing up the offense, creating a high line, putting balls in transition, and like you said, a lot of Bournemouth success, I think, recently should be based off of what Tyler Adams and Ryan Christie have been contributing to that midfield. As for Fulham, though, they have Raul Jimenez and Kenny Tete both potentially out. And while they have had players that have been solid for them in transition, the Josh Kings, the Alex Iwobis, I think especially their double pivot in Stamford Bridge and Sasha Lukic have been on a bit of a downgrade. They haven't provided as many long balls in. Their crossing has not been as accurate, and I think Fulham do not have as many avenues for attack this year so far as they did last year.
Yeah, and I don't think they were especially poor in their last game. I am concerned about their backline as well, though. I mean, we've seen how vulnerable they can be when they're pressed into sustained defending. In that Villa game, you had the Watkins goal followed soon after by a free kick, which Leno had to save himself, and then 2 quick-fire goals for Villa in the second half. Silva has rotated pieces, but like you said, that central pairing, Bassi, Anderson, has looked a bit uncertain under quick ball movement, and the fullbacks have been caught high pretty often as well, which leaves space for teams to exploit in the transition. And Lukic and Berg, like you said, they offer energy in the midfield, but they don't always provide the protection that's needed, which has only amplified the pressure on that already shaky defense. And Fulham do still have some attacking threats, like Muniz, like Jimenez, unfortunately probably gone for this match, but whether
I
they
think
improve
Muniz
on
might be gone as well.
is he also? Okay,
Potentially,
so
potentially.
the
Potentially.
scoring will be quite questionable here, but really, I think whether they can improve on last season is going to hinge on whether they can shore up the backline. That's where I think the most issues are here. I'm sure they can find 1 or 2 goals a game. With an opponent like Bournemouth, I think they can manage. I don't think Bournemouth's defense is especially strong compared to other league competitors. But again, they need to fix their own backline first before they can think about winning games on goals.
Yeah, I think we should also consider how tactically this matches up. So we have Fulham. I think one of their weaknesses is the right back position, regardless whether or not it's Kenny Tete or Castagna that's playing. That's going to be a very good matchup for Bournemouth because remember they have Antoine Semenyo. He has been one of the most solid players in the Prem, one of the most underrated players in the Prem as of recent. And while honestly that entire attack that Bournemouth has is able to play on counters, make chances out of nothing, just be deadly if they get the right opportunity, if they get space. Antoine Semenyo in this season in particular has been absolutely amazing at that, and I think that could be potentially very key to Bournemouth getting a victory here if they're able to continue that streak even further.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Cherries, they will be pressing aggressively in phases and they will try to transition quickly through Semenyo, like you said. They've got Adli up there as well. And Evan Nilsson as well is a good focal point to try and occupy Anderson and Bassi. And Fulham will try to slow the game as much as they can, hit on the counter. But yeah, Bournemouth, they are just very strong attacking wise. They've profited from dead ball situations in several matches already. And I think they will largely be able to impose their shape here. Fulham will probably be the more reactive team in this match, and I expect Bournemouth are going to get a lot of the possession and a lot of the shots on goal as well.
Yeah, I think I generally agree. I think the only potential way for Fulham to win this is to take advantage of perhaps a break on a counter, a slight mistake by Bournemouth's defense. Because while I think they have been a lot more cohesive, you could argue that that's still probably their weakest position on the pitch. And so, just to go straight into predictions. So far, like we said, Bournemouth have not lost a match in their last six, in their last five in the Prem after that first match. They are now sitting in the top six. But at the same time, Fulham have scored in each of their last four matches. And so I'm going to expect that to continue. I think even though Bournemouth's defense is solidified, I think Fulham will just find a way because they always seem to do so. I think they're going to get a goal. But Bournemouth's streak will continue. They just look a lot more solid. I agree with you. I think they're going to dominate possession. They're going to dominate chances. And I think ultimately they'll get a 2-1 win.
Yeah, I've got to agree with you for most of that. I think both teams, but particularly Bournemouth, are going to bring lots of energy to this game, knowing they each have a good chance at a win. Like you said, Fulham are consistent with scoring at least one per game, and I think they can find a goal from someone here. Uh, Unfortunately, probably not Jimenez, probably not Muniz, but they do have the attacking threat such that I can expect somebody to score. But Bournemouth's attack has been one of the most dangerous in the league, and their midfield is strong too. You have Christie's ability to dictate tempo, and the only real concern for Bournemouth is that their backline has leaked goals. But Fulham's attack isn't as strong as a team like Liverpool, no doubt. So while Fulham can exploit an opening somewhere, I think more chances will come from Bournemouth, and I'm going to have to agree with you. I'll say they score more and they get a 2-1 here.
All right, well, then that brings us to the second match. And I think this is quite an interesting dichotomy that we've been seeing in the Premier League. So, the conventional wisdom over the last few years is that teams have been more recently going three up and three down. That is, the three promoted teams have always been getting relegated immediately the same season. We can talk about financial reasons, marketing reasons why that happens, but so far, Leeds and Sunderland have bucked this trend. Both of them look really solid right now. They look extremely safe. And while by all conventional wisdom, Leeds should get absolutely trounced by Tottenham here, maybe it's not so simple. So tell me what you think.
Yeah, I mean, if you're just looking at the stats, they're 12th place, right? 8 points. Definitely not a bad showing for the seventh match day. And I think between this and their season last season in the championship, it is now 23 matches unbeaten in the league at Elland Road after that 2-2 draw with Bournemouth. I do think that match as well is another reminder of the fine margins across the Prem table. I mean, Bournemouth are top six here, but Fark's side was looking on course for back-to-back wins after the Rodon and the Longstaff goals, both from set pieces, I think, only to concede after that stoppage time equalizer. And while the defense switched off towards the end, I'd argue it was Leeds' finishing that let them down most. Calvert-Lewin spurned two or three big chances in the first half, including a one-on-one at the very beginning. Leeds have proven capable of creating opportunities, and obviously they show lots of spirit, and I'm sure at Elland Road that's going to continue. But I think to get a win here, or even just a draw, they're just going to have to be more clinical, especially against stronger opposition like Tottenham, or else they're going to risk letting results like these slip through their fingers.
Yeah, I think we've definitely continued to see this finishing issue with Leeds. I think they scored five in their last two, so like on the surface it seems fine, but a lot of those goals have been bangers that you can't really rely on a season wide basis. Like you can't expect Sean Longstaff to just score a banger every game for the rest of the season. I know United tried to do it with Bruno Fernandes last year, but it didn't really work so well. So I'm not so sure that they've actually fixed the issue. And you also consider, Nantoma continues to be out, and I think, as you said, Dominic Calvert-Lewin has been a bit questionable as their replacement striker, and I don't really know whether or not it's going to be sustainable against Tottenham. My issues with their finishing have not really been addressed fully, in my opinion, based on these last two matches.
Yeah, if I go to Tottenham now, they've been playing very gritty, not too dissimilar to Leeds. I mean, stoppage time strike from Paulinia for a 1-1 against Wolves, just a week after they mounted another comeback to snatch a point against Brighton. The performances have been a bit inconsistent. I mean, Solanke, Madison, Kulu are all absent, so the lack of creativity is clear. But Spurs' refusal to quit in all of their games has been a defining feature of their start to the season. Kudus, I'd like to think, has looked pretty lively. Richarlison continues to lead the line with mixed success, but they're finding enough goals against these opponents that they're coming up against. And I mean, despite those attacking struggles, they are unbeaten in 6 matches now against all competitions, showing that they can grind out results even when they're not at their best and they don't have their best roster available to them. And heading into a stadium with such a long unbeaten streak for Leeds, like I talked about, that ability to stay in the game for the full 90 plus minutes is a very good trait to have.
But I think there's a deeper issue there because yes, Tottenham have not lost in 6 matches, just like how Leeds haven't lost at Ellen Road in 23 matches. They also haven't won any of their last 3 games, unless you want to count that cup match against Doncaster, right? I think the main reason for that is actually a lack of depth because without Madison, without Kulu, it's really just Bergvall, Bentancur, Polinia. You're really relying on just a few players to hold down that midfield, which is just so important for Thomas Frank's system. And I think now that they're playing Champions League, Premier League, and then cup matches, they're playing 2-3 matches a week. I think that's going to be an increasing issue for now while their injured players don't come back for the foreseeable future. And I think in a match against Leeds, where Leeds is comparatively well rested, they're playing 1 game a week. They basically can play their starters every match. I'm a little bit more concerned about how consistent Tottenham's scrappiness can be, as well as whether or not whether or not their lack of energy might lead them to be vulnerable on the counter, or lead them to not be able to break a low block as well. I think we're going to see Tottenham's, I think, results continue to dwindle a little bit as long as they remain in so many competitions at once.
Oh yeah, I have to agree. I mean, that game against Bodo was, I'd say, pretty high energy all throughout. And yeah,
Don't you mean Budo?
is it Budo, Bodo, Bodo?
You said that. You said it
Yes,
was
I
Budo.
remember.
Wait, that was you said that. I didn't.
Like 2, 3 episodes. I'm sorry. I
Yeah,
don't speak
exactly.
Norwegian. I wouldn't know.
Yeah, I wouldn't normally be like this, but you brought it up, so
I'm
I feel
aware
like I have the right
I'm
to,
aware I did bring
you
it up
know.
at one point. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyways, the game against Budo, it was pretty high intensity throughout, and like you said, the roster is not very deep right now. I mean, even if you look at their transfer activity, it wasn't especially heavy compared to like Liverpool, Chelsea, Man City, Arsenal. And yeah, they just now with the injuries, they just really don't have the roster to see out all these games properly. So they're gonna have to pick and choose what they really pay attention to, or risk just being mediocre in all their games, and that is a risk here as well. They will be looking for control, discipline in the midfield with the players that they do still have there, Bergvall, Bentancur, etc. And they'll also need to try and outweigh Leeds' set piece threat, because that has been a concern for teams playing Leeds, given they bought like 5 or 6 players that are 6 feet and above. Leeds will be pressing aggressively to try and disrupt Spurs' rhythm. And again, they'll be leaning on that aerial and set piece strength. And they'll have the Ellen Road crowd to drive their momentum. So Tottenham will have to put in a lot of work if they want to try and slow things down, dictate the tempo, and hopefully turn their possession into some actual chances, something they struggled with against Wolves. If Leeds can punish the defensive issues and midfield issues Tottenham are having right now, another upset in Yorkshire, I don't think it's out of the question. It's a vulnerable
I don't think it's
Tottenham
out of the
side.
question either. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like, again, part of it is, we look at the tactics as you're talking about right now. I think you can very reasonably be worried about how Tottenham has been playing as of recent. You can be very worried about the fixture congestion, the injuries, the lack of squad depth, and I think it's a very legitimate point. Uh, Leeds, for their lack of finishing, the lack of creativity that we talked about, they have been consistent. They're able to get long shot goals out of nowhere. Again, we don't know how consistent that will be. And more consistently, they have been very strong aerially, which I think could potentially be an issue for Tottenham. Especially, again, because of that fixture congestion. That is something that tends to. Your aerial defense is something that you tend to get a lot worse at if you have a lot of fixture congestion, right? So, my prediction is you combine that and you look at the fact that, again, Tottenham undefeated in 6 games. Leeds undefeated in 23 games at home. I'm actually gonna go for 1-1 draw here.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I mean, Leeds' unbeaten run again at home stretches back like more than a year now. And Fark's side have shown that they can bloody the nose of stronger opponents, especially when they have that crowd behind them. They do lack a consistent finisher, but like again, Tottenham lack a consistent midfield right now. So I think that'll kind of balance out. And Tottenham, for their part, they've had some strong showings against strong competition lately, like City or like the high flying Bournemouth. And they can grind out results even when they're shorthanded up front. But their issue of turning possession into goals is still lingering, and a strong, energetic Leeds press will expose any defensive cracks they have, and there will be quite a few. And so I'm also going to give this game a 1-1 draw. I think these two teams kind of continue their momentum. Leeds will snatch points for a little while, and Tottenham will continue to be mediocre until they can get those midfielders back. And until then, they're going to drop some points against the lower table teams.
Gosh, this is a little bit concerning for me because I do have to, in order to make up the deficit I have on you, I do have to get some different predictions than you. So I'm a little worried so far. This is not looking very good for me.
I think this
but
is the best gap I've had so far since we started this, yeah?
that
Okay.
is true. It's like 5 points, but right, it's
Right.
like 5 points. But it's still really early though. We're still in the we're not in the Arsenal has choked the league yet section of the season.
Not
So
just yet, not just
so
yet.
I'm not too
Speaking of
concerned for now.
speaking of Arsenal though, yeah, I think we can go to the Emirates now, where they are hosting a West Ham side under new management with Nuno.
Yeah, I mean Nuno put West Ham off to a pretty decent start, man. Again, I still don't know why Nottingham sacked him. There's no explanation other than just their owners being Greek buffoons. But yeah, I mean that match against Everton, damn.
Okay. Let's
Keep
hold
it
on. Let's
composed.
hold off a
Keep
little.
it
Let's
keep
hold
it
off a
calm.
little.
Keep it chill. Let's stay civil, folks. Um, I mean, they look pretty good against Everton. I think they had probably more chances. I think they had more XG. And away from home against a very solid Everton squad, I think that pragmatism that Nuno brings, that whole philosophy, might actually be fitting West Ham's players better than Potter's just like traditional soulless British style football. So I think it was a really solid start for West Ham, but I'm still not too. I'm not going to buy in to the hype a little too much because as good as Nuno Espirito Santo is, and we all know this, I feel like there is always a little bit of a like debut bounce for new managers in the Prem. At least you've seen it in the past few years, and there's still a big difference between playing against West Ham and playing against like a title contender that, according to Opta, has like a 1 in 3 chance of winning the league. At home, by the way. So I wouldn't put my hopes up too high if I'm a West Ham fan, at least for this match.
I mean, it was a hard fought draw at Everton, and they had to ride their luck at times. But I would say there was a sharper edge in transitions. You had Somerville, lively in wide areas. Again, Jared Bowen carrying the main threat. We talked about this at the start of the season. He's doing so much for this team. If he like manages to get injured, I don't know what's gonna happen to these guys. I think they might just be relegated right there. I'd call it
Oh yeah, no. If
right
Jared,
there
yeah,
and
if
then.
Jared Bowen it's over. Yeah.
Yeah. But he tested Pickford late on. You had the midfield duo working tirelessly to provide a stable base for that attack. But I think the same defensive issues persisted for them. It was another goal conceded from a corner, uh, highlighting their ongoing vulnerability at set pieces, which again we talked about in a previous episode. I think they have still now conceded the most goals from corners or from set pieces of any team in the league. And Nuno has clearly instilled more fight, but unless West Ham quickly solve that weakness, Arsenal's league best dead ball record could be very decisive in this match.
Yeah, I know. Worst aerial defense in the league vs Arsenal at the Emirates. It's not going to be pretty for West Ham. I'm going to be completely honest. And we know what else is not going to be pretty. We were just talking about how Tottenham is going to have to deal with squad depth issues because of the UCL. I want to point out in Arsenal's match against Olympiacos earlier this week, you know who wasn't starting? Saka or Eze. So what does that tell you about how they're going to line up in this match? I think there were also some rotation that was going on in the midfield as well. So I don't know, man. It looks like Arsenal could be putting in a close to starting lineup into this match, and that would be a really bad sign for West Ham.
Yeah, I mean, what a dramatic equalizer against in their last game too. Uh like underlined they have good resilience to, but like rarely what it underlines I think is their attacking depth. They have so many strong attackers to call on here. Martinelli once again making the difference off the bench. Um and like you have Eze finding rhythm. I think Havertz and Jesus are both sidelined, but now you have Saka coming in, so there are like good options here for finishing, for creating chances. I think Arsenal will need to be a bit more precise in the final third in the future to find goals against all of their competition. But for now, they're playing West Ham. I don't think they'll have too much trouble here against a side that has really been struggling in the back. Like you said, it seems like they've almost optimized their lineup here to just score as many goals as they feasibly can. So I have to agree with you. It's going to be a very ugly game. West Ham will be very lucky to get out with a single point here.
Yeah, I think this could potentially be a really big bloodbath. I'm going to be a little bit more cautious and pragmatic with my scoreline. I'm going to give this a 3-0 to Arsenal, but it could potentially be a whole lot worse. I just imagine that, they're going to score a lot of goals. It's going to be 3-0 by the 60th minute. And then, they're probably going to sub off players. They're going to rest some guys. Max Stauman is going to get subbed on. But then again, there's a chance that Max Stauman will cook the entire West Ham squad. I know he's 15, but like West Ham is not very good. So you never really know. But I think 3-0 is a decent, cautious bet hedging score prediction.
Yeah, fair enough. I do want to say quickly. I think I said Gabriel Martinelli scored the goal. It was other Gabriel against Newcastle. Their like 2-1 winner. Anyways, again, like so many attacking options here, and they're playing at home too, so they can expect lots of time on the ball. They will need some patience to wear out West Ham's compact shape, because Nuno has already set his team up with a tighter defensive structure to screen the back line. But yeah, it's like they're going to dominate possession. Arsenal. You have Rice to orchestrate tempo, Eze, Odegaard if he's available to find lot gaps all over West Ham's lines, and this is set piece FC. Arsenal have been one of the league's best sides from set pieces, which is going to be decisive against this Hammers defense that remains fragile on corners and on free kicks. And I'm actually going to be a bit more conservative than you. I had a 3-1 here, but I still think it will be a quite comfortable win for Arsenal. Their momentum will carry them past this very fragile West Ham defense.
Interesting. So is your goal scorer for West Ham going to be Jared Bowen or Jared Bowen?
Who? It's Bowen Jared, obviously.
Oh, Bowen. Yes,
Right,
right. Of course. Right, right.
of course. Okay. With that said, then we can go on to Man U, and they are facing a confident Sunderland side at Old Trafford in what will be a crucial match for Amorim before this next international break.
I honestly, and if I'm wrong on this, I am going to look so silly. But I think Amrin might actually be kind of safe because I feel like if the board wanted to sack him, they would have sacked him by now. Like I feel like if this was what Ten Hag was the situation in last season, considering how quickly they were like, no, you're gone, get out of here last season as soon as he had a few bad matches. I feel like that Brentford match should have been in the nail in the coffin. I think like there were some people after that Brentford match preemptively giving the news that the board had already internally decided to sack him, which obviously is not the case. So my thesis in the last video was I think as bad as it is, you sort of just have to stick it out at this point because the roster is too different. The window has already closed. You can't even really put in a new manager. It's just like this season is sort of a wash. Next season, you bring in Gareth Southgate or I don't know Mark Goldbridge or whoever, and maybe he can stabilize the ship.
Okay,
Oh
okay,
man, I'm
okay.
on a roll today. Jesus Christ.
United stand. I guess they've got to stand on business, man.
I mean,
Amorim's taking
he
over.
can't. I feel like he can't do any worse than Amarin. I don't know.
Yeah,
Like we really hit rock bottom at this point with
fair.
with United.
Ruben Amorim to Leverkusen. Here we go.
Oh God.
It's
Okay.
bad.
What's
It's
next?
this.
We got Eric Ten Hag to Benfica. Here we go. Next season.
Oh yes, and Mourinho comes back around. Of
Yeah,
course.
yeah, and Mourinho back to Porto, obviously.
Yes. I mean, dude, I don't know what to say with this team. Their inconsistencies, Man U, are just continuing to define their season. I know you're saying Amram's not under pressure, and I agree. They might just wait until the end of the season to sack him. I don't think
I
they'll
think he
get.
is under pressure. He's obviously under a lot of pressure. I'm just
Yeah,
saying that I don't
yeah.
think he'll be sacked soon.
Not immediately. No, I think they'll wait till like towards the end of the season, if not till it finishes. Because I don't know that there's much they can do outside of like I think the furthest they can really get this season is mid-table at this point. The way
Yeah, I think he's just waited out for like the winter transfer window because at least then you can you'll have the money, you can play around, change around the roster for some new guy to come in.
yeah.
But yeah, I think pragmatically you just sort of have to keep him in at this point. But enough about United, man. Let's talk about Sunderland. Because
Sunderland.
Sunderland is the goddamn story of the Premier League so far, man. I feel like every week people have expected, not us. We've been standing on business as of recent, but a lot of people have been expecting Sunderland to drop off. It's inevitable. It's about to happen. Well, it hasn't because I think they're like seventh or eighth in the Premier League still. They are so clear of relegation. I think what was it? Was it 11 points or 12 points
It's
they had to
11
get?
points in
It's
10
11, and
games.
they have it. And
Yeah.
they have it with, what, 4 games to spare. So, the history tells us that Sunderland is already guaranteed to not be relegated. Of course, it's no guarantee in real life, but that just goes to show how great of a position Sunderland have put themselves in. And yeah, I mean, with a Sunderland that was projected by a lot of people, including us, to finish 20th, and the United side that was projected to rebound, it feels like the opposite is going on. And so this game, I think almost like the Leeds vs Tottenham match, is going to be very interesting.
I mean, dude, a gritty 1-0 win over Forest. Labrie has crafted a side like that is just all in for 90 minutes, always seemingly able to find some way back into a game, if not getting ahead to start with. They have defensive organization, they've got sharp transitions, a great young goalkeeper who in this game made a string of saves to preserve the result at the City ground. You have Alderete settling quickly into the defense, Shaka marshalling the midfield well. The whole team just looks well drilled. They do struggle when pressed for long periods, as you could expect really any newly promoted side to. But they've got like dangerous attacking outlets if you look at like Wilson Isidore. Chris Rigg to provide drive and creativity. Just so many great young players on here. Even old players. I won't
Dude,
be shocked
bro,
by
Chris
that.
Rigg, in 5 years, Chris Rigg might be world class, dude. Like this guy might be the next Cole Palmer, unironically.
I see so many potential prospects on this Sunderland team, honestly. And their away form has been pretty good too. Like against Forest, like against Palace. So I think they can just sit deep, frustrate, and rely on counters, knowing one, that Amorim's side needs the win badly, but two, they are awfully vulnerable when they're chasing a goal.
Yeah, man. Like I look at Sunderland's injury list, and I think they arguably have the second worst, besides Chelsea right now. And if you told me at the start of the season, 6 matches in, Sunderland has that injury list. Reynoldo is suspended, or I think sorry is injured. They have Habib Diarra, crucial to their midfield, is out as well. Dan Ballard just came back. Man, it would not be looking very good. Dennis Sirkin, by the way, also out. On the left back position. I think Maresca is actually their third choice left back, and he has looked solid somehow. Anyways, in the Premier League, it feels like the squad is indestructible, man. Like in the first match week when Dan Ballard got injured, we were worried about it, and then every time something else happened, this team has been so resilient, and it's honestly quite shocking. At this point, I look at United, I look at Sunderland, and Sunderland have already built an identity. You know, United are still figuring out, should we play Casemiro or should we play Ugarte or Kobe Mainu or whatever. But like Sunderland, it doesn't matter who they play. It's like they're one person. It's like they're soul connected and they're like telepathically communicating to each other on the pitch because it's just so cohesive. Labrie has had this roster. It's planned out so well. It's like a master plan. Even to the keeper, man, like you said, Robin Roos, I think he has the highest difference between expected goals on target and actual goals conceded in
Dude,
the
it's
league.
crazy. There are so many great GKs in the Prem. We have Donnarumma in the Prem now.
Bro, we have
Rob,
Donnarumma and statistically Robin fucking Roofs, which I know none of you have even heard of this guy 3 months ago, is statistically the best goalkeeper in the Premier League.
yeah, I mean, okay. I'm just gonna give my call right now. Again, like I said, United's inconsistency has been the story of Amorim's tenure, and defeat at Brentford just another reminder of how fragile this team can look when they're under pressure. But Old Trafford has still been a place where they have found ways to grind out results, like against Chelsea or against Burnley. I don't know why you're so hyped about a 3-2 win against a newly promoted team, but hey man, if you can find that
Listen,
final
man,
goal.
listen. That's 3 points for them and 3 points away from a fellow relegation contender. It's good news.
Yeah, exactly. If you can find the late winning goal, I'd fair enough. All props to you, man. I think the recent emergence of Sesko is a big plus. His duel with Mukiele will be decisive if he can use his movement, his strength to get the better of Sunderland's defenders. United will have a cutting edge that they often lack, that they so desperately have needed. And while the visitors are going to take encouragement from that away win at Forest, they will be organized, they will be stubborn, they can counter with pace through Rig, through Isidore. I just don't think they can keep discipline for 90 minutes at Old Trafford. It's going to be a tall order, and I don't think Roofs can quite manage to keep the goals out the way he did against Forest, as well as he did play there. And so I'm going to say it's United 2, Sunderland 1.
Ooh, okay. I see it though. I get it. I get it. This is what I'm gonna say. I think there's a distinct possibility that because Labrie is just so smart, I think there's a good chance they move to a five back. You have Ballard, Mukiele, and Alderete as like all center backs, as well as Musakau and Hume, because I think that would be a really good counter to the three man offense of United. And I think, man, I thought like center backs would be maybe one of this team's weaknesses depth wise, but Ballard, Alderete, Mukiele have all looked good. Even Nuko Unin, who we saw a little bit earlier, but who has been injured for the last few weeks, he has looked good as well, man. This I think they can just do that. They can just absorb the pressure. And even if that means how you have to drop to two midfielders, dude, Sadiki and Xhaka have just been so solid as a double pivot. So solid. They're great at keeping possession. They can play in transition. They can make the progressive pass. And I'm gonna go crazy here. I think Sunderland can continue this magic, and with United so demoralized, I think they're gonna get yet another 1-1 draw.
Okay, I mean, I see it. I see it, man. It is such a strong team. They've got so much momentum behind them. And honestly, I think United needs the points much more than Sunderland right now. But Sunderland just put their all into every game. So one point for each team, not unreasonable. I guess with that, then we can go to Stamford Bridge. We have Chelsea hosting Liverpool, two giants who have both been a bit wounded in their recent games, actually. So, what do you think about? How about we start with Chelsea, the home team?
Yeah, I think I've already talked about how Chelsea's back line is in a world of hurt. They with at the time Adebayo and Chabala, I think they were very vulnerable in transition, and with Levi Colwell out, that was a big issue. But you know what? Both of those guys are injured too now. It's now going to be Wesley Fofana and Badia Shile as the back line. And I remember we were talking about the two of us, we were talking about whether Chelsea could recover and still finish top four, finish top three, as you know, some of the more optimistic Chelsea fans and Prem fans in general were talking about how they had the possibility to do. But I think until Levi Colwill comes back, until like a solid defensive force like that comes back, they're in a world of hurt. And not only that, Cole Palmer is out too. So like that's gonna put a ton of pressure on Joao Pedro to be that one guy on the spark for offensively for Chelsea. So for Chelsea, man, it's just not looking good right now. You still have the Champions League that you have to deal with. You have this. You have I think they're still in both cup competitions. It it could potentially be a big lingering issue for Chelsea this season.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest concern, like you kind of said, is that defensive instability. A 3-1 collapse at Brighton following Chalobah's red card. And I mean, it was they were down to 10 men, but how fragile this backline has become, man. Injuries to Colwill, Chalobah, probably some other people I'm forgetting, but Maresca
And
has been
what
left
does
out.
it say though when you're this undisciplined and you're getting red cards every match in the
Yeah,
Premier League?
I don't
Because
know.
this was not like an Arsenal last season situation. I feel like they're not being screwed over by VAR or anything. Like they're just being undisciplined.
Yeah, I really don't know what to say, man. Um, now Maresca. I mean, Maresca has so little choice. He is leaning on like who Disasi, Fafana, Silva. They've all had like some struggles with pace, with positioning. The vulnerabilities have been particularly costly in the transitions. Chelsea too often they get pulled completely apart their backline. And you do have Fernandez who stepped up a bit creatively. Gallagher continues to work tirelessly, but the lack of a stable base behind them with so many injuries, suspensions, players coming in and out, these attacks they rarely translate into sustained control in the game. They just don't have that base that they need. And Palmer, I think, still absent, removes the cutting edge that normally would be able to mask these issues. And so now the Blues are really in danger of being exposed whenever the opponents lift up the tempo.
Yeah, and I think like a lot of people were hyping them up after the Club World Cup, and now there's a little bit of clownery going on where people are saying those people were ridiculous. And look, it's not like I'm covering our asses. We never bought into the Chelsea hype ourselves. But at the same time, man, like when like as you're saying, Palmer is injured. The reliant backline that they had in order to play that 3-1-6 system that they used in the Club World Cup is not here either. I think they're just getting kind of unlucky so far this season, and that's just how it goes, really. Last season, at least, they had the benefit of just being in the Conference League, but this year it's going to be quite a bit of an issue for them. But before we spend too much time on Chelsea, I think we got to talk a little bit about your club, Liverpool, because after an incredible start, it looked like they were invincible. You know, whenever they weren't already winning in the 80th minute, they just get 10 times better and ensure the win. This roster is now 2 games. They've now lost 2 games on the bounce. Should we be concerned about Liverpool?
I mean, okay, first off, I'm going to say I did have some notes for last match week's episode before we canceled that. And part of that was I had Liverpool breaking our breaking our winning streak. It was going to be a 1-1 draw is what I had predicted, which would have worked out until like the 90 plus 7th minute. But yeah, defense has been a key concern for us, right? Since the first game of the season against Bournemouth, but we have more than made up for it with our front line, which, especially with the transfer activity, is definitely our strongest area on the pitch. Up until the Palace game, that is. I mean, we had dominance on the ball, lots of shots taken, little end product though. Isak Verts failed many times to convert on promising positions. Chiesa's sharpness has offered some hope, but he often looks like the only consistent spark in the final third. And the midfield too has not consistently supported those transitions. You had Gravenberch's mistakes showed in conceding both goals, I think, at Selhurst Park. And given that Gahey got held back at Palace, and now Leone is off likely for the rest of the season with his ACL tear. Our defense is probably going to stay questionable until at least the winter transfer window. So we need a strong attack right now to make up for that. We need to keep up basically the antics that we've been keeping up since the season started. And against Chelsea's like patchwork defense, the chance to punish vulnerabilities is strong, but only if we rediscover that goal scoring threat that has been missing, really, in these last two games.
The thing is, I wouldn't be too concerned because I don't think Liverpool have been necessarily lacking in too many chances. I think a big thing is they're trying to rotate Isak and Ekitike over and over again, which, to be fair, I did advise. Uh, while those two players have not really figured out how to play in tandem with the rest of the team yet, and I think over time they're going to figure that out. It was basically the same strategy that Chelsea has been using with João Pedro and Liam Delap, but it worked a lot better for them because both those players were with them before any of their friendlies. Whereas this is not the same situation for Liverpool, right? They have not figured out when do I play one striker vs the other. It's more so just been like on off, just depending on availability, depending on schedule. So I do think that will get better with time, and I think. I mean, yeah, with how much Chelsea's backline looks weakened, I think if you want to reinvigorate the squad, show that they still have the offensive capability that we know that they have, this is the perfect match to do it, man. This is the perfect bounce back opportunity, and we know how good this Liverpool squad can be. So, like, I'm not too concerned, at least as a neutral outsider.
Okay, no, that's fair. I guess tactics wise, Chelsea they will be trying to control the rhythm here through Fernandez. You have Caicedo providing the defensive shield. Some balance from Andre Santos if he's fit. I think he could show up here. And out wide you have the creativity of Esteval, Neto. Chelsea always a team that's looking for attacking creativity. They're going to try and isolate our fullbacks, open some space for Joao Pedro, who they have drifting between the lines. Again, lots of attacking threats for both of these teams. For the visitors, though, our strategy is going to be all about the quick, intensive transitions. We need Grav, McAllister to try and snap into challenges and feed the advanced trio. Sabozlai will also look to thread passes to Wirtz or Salah. And with Isak up front, hopefully we can turn these transitions into some goals that can decide this match. We had some problems again finishing against Palace. We did, to be fair, have quite a few shots on goal. I guess just the hope is that our two new forwards can lock in a bit here. I mean, we spent what 220 something million pounds on the two of them, so I'm just gonna hope for a goal for each of them or something like that.
Yeah, this is some Chelsea Looney Tunes ass spending. But look, man, I think, like we're saying, Chelsea's backline looks weak. I think even if Liverpool waste a lot of chances, they will get chances to score. And again, you have had some concerns with Liverpool's backline, especially with Leone out. But I wouldn't be too worried, especially because João Pedro is gonna just be that main focal point in chance creation, right? Like Pedro Neto is Steve Yao. They can be good if you feed them the ball. They can create chances, but without Palmer on the ball, it's really just based off. It's just really going to be based on João Pedro to carry them offensively. So I think just based on the amount of based on the tactical level, based on how many chances both teams are going to get, even if Liverpool are particularly wasteful, I still think they can pull off a win. So I'm going to go with Liverpool to take this one 2-1.
Yeah, okay, and I actually have that same scoreline as well. I think again both these teams are showing plenty of attacking promise, but they're far from stable at the back. So Chelsea's wide threat again, Neto, Esteval will test our fullbacks, and then on the other side, our forward line is always dangerous. We have Salah, Wirtz feeding Isak. The midfield duel of like Fernandez against Grav will be very interesting to watch. Could dictate a lot of the tempo here. And I do think Chelsea, they have the pace and creativity to hurt us, but their backline still leaves a lot to be desired right now. And we can create enough chances for ourselves, and I think we can start to get back to our winning ways with this game. So again, I'm going to have a 2-1 for Liverpool.
All right, well then that brings us into Aston Villa vs Burnley. So no Nana, no Tielemans, and Champions League matches, Champions League fixtures for Aston Villa, I think puts them into a little bit of doubt. Do they have the roster? Do they have the depth to compete in all these tournaments at once, which was a concern we had at the start of the season. But at the same time, when we last talked about them, they were still goalless in the Premier League, and now with 3 wins in a row, they have at least turned that around. So not all hope is lost for this Aston Villa squad. So coming into this match against Burnley, can they keep up the form?
Dude, I mean, they finally like sparked into life with that comeback victory over Fulham. It's a massive release for them just outside the 3 points, a massive release of pressure on this team, on their manager. Watkins found his first goal of the season. That's huge for his confidence, for Villa's confidence. McGinn has continued to drive the team forward with leadership and goals, and Buendia's influence off the bench has been great as well. I mean, Villa are now out of the bottom three. That is a big rut that they were in. That was a big mental issue for them as well. And I think there is good reason to believe that they can build on this momentum. But I will say, to be honest, defensively, it seems like they're still riding their luck. Fulham created good chances from what I remember watching the game, and Martinez needed to put in a few good saves. But Villa have shown character in responding to these setbacks that they've had to start off the season. And after those first few losses, I think they should be confident that they can find a win here and continue grabbing up points.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I remember Unai Emery also started pretty slow last season for Aston Villa. It wasn't as bad of a condition as they were at the start of this season, but maybe it wasn't ever that big of an issue. And like again, like yeah, they're still conceding chances, but Emi Martinez is Emi Martinez. It's not like it. This is not like a Robin Roos situation where out of nowhere, how is Emi Martinez making all of these saves? No, he's always been one of the best goalkeepers in the world. So this isn't all that concerning to me. And I think even if they have a little bit of regression to the mean, even if they're still figuring things out, even if they're doing this rotating, with all due respect, they're playing Burnley, and Burnley is like that one stereotypical team that gets newly promoted that is like automatically destined, screwed to be relegated immediately from the season that they come up. Like Burnley is that one squad that goes up and goes straight back down. And I mean, Sunderland and Leeds seem to have been able to buck the trend, but as rare as it is for all three teams to go down to go back down before the last two seasons, I don't know how many times all three teams have stayed up. And I think it's not looking pretty good. It's not looking good for Burnley right now, man. It's really not looking good.
Yeah, I mean, I will say though, they left City with a 5-1 defeat, but I think the performance over the entire game was not quite as lopsided as the score would suggest. Because they matched City for long stretches, unsettled them at times with their press, forced errors in midfield, had some opportunities to break forward, and City only took their second lead of the game, which they kept until the end at the 60th minute, which like holding up for only 60 out of 90 minutes against the team isn't great, but it is City, to be fair. And they're playing Villa here, who aren't quite as dangerous, especially not in the form they are now, where they're kind of still recovering from that poor early stretch. With Burnley, Anthony, again, proved himself a reliable source of goals, and Lyle Foster unfortunately did not find any shots on target, but he was moving tirelessly, and I'm sure he can find some chances in this game. So, yeah, again, the problem is just like whether they can maintain their intensity for the full 90 minutes. I mean, defensive lapses, two own goals, I think, from Estev, punishing their otherwise quite disciplined shape. But still, the energy that Parker demands was on display, and if Burnley can keep up that work rate for just a bit longer at Villa Park, they could make things a bit uncomfortable for Emery's side.
Yeah, they can, but like I'm gonna be honest here. I feel like inevitably it feels like the plot to this match has already been written, and the plotline would just make a whole hell of a lot more sense if Villa cleanly got a win here. So I'm gonna say 2-0 for Aston Villa. I'm not gonna give too much of a reasoning, but I don't think I have to, man. Like it feels like Burnley they have shown glimpses. They did get that win against Sunderland, but nothing has gone their way tactically so far. Like not tactically, but sorry, nothing has gone their way luck wise. Even though they have seemed tactically solid at times, so I just don't see how they pull off a win away from home at Villa Park.
Yeah, I mean, Villa's momentum is clear. With that win against Feyenoord earlier today, I think, as we're recording this, it is now three straight victories, only one loss in their last 25, I think, at Villa Park. Like, they've been very strong at home. If not wins, then at least draws they can manage. And Burnley, again, showed in that game against City that they can press for a while, they can create chances, but I don't think they're going to last as long as they need to, just like in that City game. And also, their away form is alarming. It is three straight defeats on the road and an average of just over, I think, 3 goals conceded per game in that stretch. And I think something similar is going to happen here. So I'm going to say a 3-1 for Villa. Burnley will get scored on quite a lot here. It's going to continue the trend.
All right, fair enough. And that brings us to our next match, which I think is going to be one of the tactical interests of this match. It's two teams that have had very solid seasons so far. An Everton squad that with Jack Grealish has been invigorated, and a Crystal Palace squad that remains the only side in the Premier League to still not have lost a single game.
Yeah, I mean, I will say though, Everton, they're not the worst at the moment, but they are, I think, winless in their last 4 games across all competitions. Lost to Wolves in the EFL Cup, quite questionable, I'd say. I don't know if they were just like really prioritizing the Prem over cup
I
matches.
mean, I think that is what happened. I don't think that
Probably,
was too. Yeah.
yeah. Not unreasonable, I suppose. I mean, Moyes' side they're still struggling a bit to convert possession into goals, but they do have Grealish now, always a boon for any team he's on. Um, I Grealish, yeah, again, his ability to roam, create chances will be critical here, particularly against Palace's quite disciplined backline. And so Everton, I'm sure they can try and exploit set pieces, stretch the flanks, create some openings back there. But before all that, I think they will be greatly tested in terms of their defensive organization. There are injuries to, I think, Branthwaite, Dewsbury Hall limits the depth in the central defense. And if they once again show an inability to close down spaces quickly, it could allow Palace to counter relentlessly throughout this entire game.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. To be fair though, I think James Garner, as Hall's replacement, has actually stepped up recently. He has been pretty solid, but losing Branthwaite is obviously such a big deal. He's just such a menace, a threat in the box, and now it's like so much easier to put in crosses to just test in Everton's defense, and teams are willing to be a lot more risky on the offense, which has not boded well for Everton in as of recent. But at the same time, uh, I think Palace have looked very solid. Obviously still undefeated. They have looked really good in the Conference League. But as we see this team play in Europe, as we get more fixture congestion, I'm a little worried that they have a bit of an issue depth-wise as well, especially on the offense. Uh, you know, they're going to basically just be reliant, for example, on Yermi Pino and who's the other guy? The other left
For
winger,
for Palace,
Devaney,
yeah.
as like the two left wingers. I just don't know like how much you can trust them throughout the course of a full season, for example. How much will Mateta be relied on for goal scoring, right? Like the team is very solid, the tactics are very good, but I think this is another one of those teams where we'll see a little bit of regression as the season goes on, as they have to face all of these fixtures at the same time.
Yeah, fair, fair. I mean, Palace now they are, to be fair, arriving at Bramley Moore off a now I think 18 game unbeaten streak in the Prem.
Yeah,
They've
it's
got
ridiculous.
lethal counterattacks. Again, like I said before as well, disciplined defense, late game resilience. We just saw it against Liverpool. We were supposed to be Leverkusen for this season, man. And now it's been completely
Maybe
ruined.
they'll be Leverkusen for this
May-
season. Who
Maybe
knows?
maybe they'll take over the job for a little while. They've been clinical, I'd say, at both ends. You have Sar to provide width and pace to stretch opposing defenses. Nketiah can capitalize on mistakes with precise finishing. They defend compactly, particularly around set pieces, and they have a pretty deep squad, which lets them rotate without losing too much intensity, and they can maintain this energy
Well,
and this momentum
here's the
that they
issue
have.
because
Yeah.
they have lost Chatty Riyad and they have lost
Okay.
Decore. So my issue is like the starting lineup is really good, but I feel like if one of their starting center backs or another one of their number eights goes down, that's where I can see a lot of problems for this squad.
Okay, that's fair. Though I want to say, like, with the lineups we can expect them to have now, I think they'll be pretty well off here. And yeah, against Everton, I think they can absorb early pressure, the exploit gaps left by a probably quite overcommitted Everton midfield who will be looking for some goals. And on transitions, as always, Palace can strike very decisively. They have confidence, they have cohesion, they have an understanding of when they should press, when they should sit deep. This team, this Eagles squad, is a formidable challenger for any other team in the Prem, really. I mean, we've talked about how, oh, they're the perfect matchup for Liverpool, and if anyone's going to break their winning streak, it's going to be Palace. But really, these guys are dangerous to play for anybody. Even when they're away from home, like they are here, they have a decent record, and despite Everton's home support being great in their new stadium, I think Palace have got a very good shot at least 1 point in this game.
Look, I agree with you, but I think we can honestly say something very similar for Everton. I think Everton, you can also say, are a formidable challenger for anybody in the Prem. I mean, you guys struggled a bit against them as well, and I also think that, yeah, I don't think they've lost at home this season either. So I'm I'm honestly saying, I think you make a very fair point about Everton potentially pressing too hard, giving space for Palace to exploit. But I could see Everton definitely scoring some goals of their own. So I'm going to say this is very high scoring, and I'm going to end this with a 2-2 draw.
A 2-2. Okay. I mean, I do think Everton's early optimism this season has faded just a bit. Like I said before, they've somewhat struggled, especially in these last few matches, to convert possession into goals. Some late lapses, lack of cutting edge have left them short of victories. And Palace, by contrast, they have that record equaling, I think now, unbeaten streak. And they have thrived in high pressure situations. Their players are confident in their roles. Glasner's system is strong. It is resilient. Everton are going to be buoyed by that home support, and you could have moments of individual brilliance from Grealish or Njai. That Palace, as great a team as they are, if one of those two players has a great moment of their own, I don't know that anyone on Palace is going to stop them. I don't think Henderson is getting that ball. But Palace is Palace is just so consistent. They can punish mistakes very easily. And I think this will be a tightly contested encounter for both of these teams. I'm going to say each of them find a goal. I won't say 2 goals, so I'm just going to predict a 1-1 draw here. But I do think a draw is a reasonable outcome.
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair. I'm just saying if there's a game that finishes 2-2, I think it's definitely this one. But that being said, let's move on to, I think, with all due respect, a bit of an easier match to predict. And that is Newcastle vs Nottingham Forest.
Yeah, I mean, Newcastle, they are coming into this one with their confidence a bit shaken after that loss to Arsenal. And they have some issues with consistency, but they have lots of attacking threats here. We have Woltemata, who finally got his first goal last week. Some chances fell to others.
Wait,
Gordon.
no, he didn't. He scored in his debut.
Oh, you're right. He did. That's my bad. Okay, no, I fucked up there. That's my bad.
That's
Anyways,
ball knowledge right there. For
yeah,
those who know.
we chances fell to a lot of players. I mean, Gordon. Uh, they have Wissa. Have they even played Wissa yet? Have they subbed him on?
I think he's injured or something. I don't know. I don't know what's
Yeah,
going on.
I don't know if he's available for this game. If he is, that's another scoring threat for them. I mean, Eddie Howe, he knows that his side can create, especially when you have Tenali, Guimaraes supplying quality from midfield. Uh, I think too they can expect to be a lot stronger in possession here because I want to say it was like 35% that they had against Arsenal. And so now it's just about showing that they can turn that effort and those chances into some points because they're going to get a lot more time on the ball here. They can take a lot more shots. They just hopefully need good finishing.
Yeah, I think I'm not too worried about them, especially when you consider the absolute debaucherous, terrible state that Ange Postecoglou has put Nottingham Forest in, man. Because Nuno Espirito Santo was kicked out because he lost a singular game, which we all know is not the real reason why he's been kicked out. And ever since, despite the fact that they played a random ass team from Denmark, two newly promoted sides, and Swansea, Ange Postecoglou has not had a single win so far in his tenure.
What to say with Ange Ball, man? I don't know. It is it's a pretty big shift for Forest. I mean, Chris Wood is still there as the reference point up front. But yeah, it's a different philosophy for them, man, and I just don't know what to say. It hasn't worked out so far, and Newcastle, I don't think are the kind of team where that momentum is going to turn around. It's just they're not looking especially coherent right now. This Nottingham team, and was Ange the right choice? Was he really? Because
And the
obviously
right choice was to stick to
sacking
Nuno,
sacking
obviously.
Nuno sacking Nuno was a bad choice to begin with. But I do remember that like when we found out about that, we at least said that like Ange, if you're gonna have a new manager, Ange is not a bad choice to have. But I'm not so sure about that now. At least to start off, it has been bad. I think normally when you get a new manager, we were just talking about it, right? You get a boost.
Yeah, usually, yeah.
You tend to get a boost. This has been quite the opposite of that, actually. I do wonder if that means he turns around and he keeps like a good streak for a lot longer whenever he gets his first win. But yeah, right now it's not looking good. And again, I just don't think this matchup against Newcastle is the one where Ange is going to be able to turn his momentum around. So I think Forest are going to continue to have a lot of trouble here.
Yeah, honestly, I just don't see it. I think the players do not fit the system very well. I think we did not really consider just how much like how traditional, let's just say, the backline was for Forest. I don't think they can play a high line very well. And to be fair, they've also been a little bit unlucky with injuries as of recent. So Ola Aina and Alexander Zinchenko are both out, which means alongside Nico Williams, I'm not really sure who else can play as a fullback. And the one solution that Ange knows how to deal with in that situation is to play a 3-4-3. And I think being that offensive can also provide a lot of question marks when you're playing a midfield and attack that's as strong as Newcastle's. You also have, I think, Murillo is probably going to still be out for Morata. And when you're dealing with a Newcastle squad that's going to be reliant on Voltamade as the anchor, as the focal point for that offense, I think that could also be a big challenge as well.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just looking at the teams that these two like the rosters that these two teams could potentially put up here. Uh like Jacob Murphy is on the right. He is a serious danger, and Zinchenko, like you said, is gone. So that is a duel that could have been very interesting and could have made a big difference with like control of tempo in this game. But now with Zinchenko gone, that is a problem. You have Guimaraes as well to dictate tempo against Elliot Anderson. I think the roster just generally, I'm not going to name every single duel, but like the roster just generally for Newcastle, I think is better than whatever Forest have got to offer here. Like I would hope for another Chris Wood masterclass because I know on this podcast we always want Forest to do well. But while I do think they can create chances, Newcastle's balance of width, midfield control, and just overall what I think is a better roster will tilt this contest in their favor. I do think Forest can actually find a goal, but like players like Guimaraes will help control the midfield battle for the whole game, and Newcastle will be able to flip the scoreline from their last match. It'll be a pretty comfortable 2-1 win for them.
Personally, I just don't see it for Nottingham, man. Like, I think when you're playing such a high line, when you're dealing with like a mid-table squad like Nottingham, it just really doesn't work. There's a lot of managers I think that can play really well for mid-table squads, but then when you put them on a traditional big squad, they don't really know how to manage well. And for Andrew, it's the opposite issue. And I feel like he's just too stubborn. He's going to continue to play this high line against a team like Newcastle when he really shouldn't be doing that. And so I just don't see Nottingham getting many chances at all. I think they're going to get completely shut out here. I think Newcastle's going to dominate the midfield, dominate the offense. And unfortunately, man, they're just going to get a comfortable 2-0 win, in my opinion.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, to be fair, they did score two against Midtjylland right today, right? It was
Yeah.
like 9 or 10 shots on target. I don't think it was a bad performance
It
attacking
wasn't a
wise.
bad performance, but you got to win that match, man. You like those are
That's
the
true.
matches that Nottingham would have won last season, where
Right.
every time they were supposed to win, they won, and even when they didn't look so good statistically, they overperformed anyways.
I'm looking at the stats right now. I don't know how on 5 shots and 3 shots on target for Midtjylland you're letting up 3 goals. That is that is something then. Yeah, it's not looking great for this Forest squad. I'm sad to say. I know everyone on this podcast would love them to have a good finish like they did last. Like we were hoping they got Champions League, but now they're in Europa and they're getting screwed over like this. So against Newcastle, it's not looking good. 2-0, you said?
Yeah, I'm gonna say
That's
2-0.
yeah, that's not unreasonable to be honest. Okay, I guess then we can go to Wolves versus Brighton. I mean, Wolves finally now have their first point, right? So I guess we'll
Yes,
just
a
see
singular
what
point.
what are the chances now that they can get out of the relegation zone. It's gonna be something.
For me, it's honestly not all that high. I'm gonna be honest. I think I definitely overrated them at the start of the season, and we're seeing the exact same issue that we did last year. Except last year, even during the worst of times, they still had Cunha who could consistently get them a goal like every other game. That guy does not exist for them anymore on this roster. They're an unmitigated disaster. They have shown no signs of life. They don't have a cohesive system or tactical identity, and I think there's nobody to bail them out, and they're just gonna get overrun, man. Like I don't see how they can survive this season.
Yeah, I think they did show some renewed energy with that draw versus Tottenham. They finally kind of demonstrated the fight that Vitor Pereira is looking for. Scrappy goal, I think, from Bueno, and Arias did impress in midfield with his dribbling, some intelligent runs. But yeah, like you said, who's gonna save them attacking wise? With this team has had such a big switch from last season, where last season it's just get the ball to Cunha whatever way you can, and eventually he will score something for you. They do not have that kind of player anymore, and I think it's worth mentioning that Eight Nouri is gone, so the backline is kind of screwed as well. Uh, it's not like I think the main weakness here is still their attack, but their defense isn't especially strong either. So
I think their midfield is a really big problem too,
okay,
especially
that's
like when you play a system that's as reliant on wingbacks as they do. Like their wingbacks are not good enough.
yeah, the roster and the strategy and the manager here just do not quite fit. Sort of like with Nottingham, what we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, they
I
really
think
miss Ryan Nori, man. That guy was so crucial
yeah.
for them.
I don't know. It's like they're just gonna have to hopefully find some moments of individual brilliance. And it's like you said, where last year Cunha was able to paper over some of the cracks because he was so individually brilliant. Really, just almost whenever Wolves needed him, you could find something for them, at least one goal. They do not have that player here. So I think the most they can really hope for is a draw. They try and hold back some of Brighton's goals because I don't think they're gonna find many of their own.
Yeah, I think looking at Brighton on the meantime, I know they still have Hinshelwood out. There's gonna be no Veltman and Matoma. I'm not sure about him, but But Japan did leave him out of their squad for the international break, so I think it's most likely he's gonna be out for this match. But it's not. This is not gonna be the best Brighton squad ever that's being put up either. But I just think that, man, like with how bad Wolves has been, with how reliant they were on Cunha, like Cunha also even made everyone better. He wasn't just like a do nothing striker, give him the ball, he'll score. He made Jorgen like Strand Larson looks like a fraud now without Cunha in the roster, and he's not. It's because of the system doesn't work for him anymore. But man, like he really papered over so many cracks for Wolves, and I just don't see how they're gonna recover without him now.
Yeah, I mean, okay, if I want to talk about Brighton too, because they have been pretty sharp in the attack, I want to say, which they showcased with that 3-1 over Chelsea. Welbeck's movement in the box to Kuiper's timing on the far post made them deadly in the final third, and pace, movement, clever runs from Minte to stretch the defense, create overloads on the flanks, and with Wolves just all around looking pretty unstable. I mean, they have to contain Brighton's finishing runs, try and react to their very quick transitions to try and just limit the team's impact. I think it'll be very difficult for Wolves. Brighton have got lots of attacking threats, and even though I said Wolves' defense, I think, is not their biggest weakness, it's their attack or their midfield. It's still like the defenders are going to have a very tough time holding the fort against Brighton, and I think there's a chance that we see a stream of goals like they were able to find against Chelsea. I think we could see that again here.
Yeah, I'm gonna be a little bit more cautious just because again, Matoma, uh, Henschelwood, Veltman are probably gonna be out. But yeah, Wolves are not gonna create anything of note. They're not gonna have a chance in this match, I think. And Brighton are gonna end up being comfortable. They have Rutter. They have like a lot of players who can just create an instant impact. And I'm gonna be a little bit more conservative, but I think a 1-0 solid win for Brighton. 1-0 but solid win for Brighton is the way I see this going.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. I'm actually going to say it's a 2-1, and that's because Wolves have actually been decently consistent with scoring in their last few games. Even still, though, I do think Brighton, like, they thrive in transition. You have Minte, Rudder's movement, lets Welbeck exploit pockets behind Wolves' back three. It's just like attacking threats all over the pitch, and I think Brighton, they can dominate possession in bursts, punish Wolves' defensive lapses. They'll find two quick goals. I think they can easily find, and I can see Wolves like nicking one at the end, but it's gonna be a consolation at that point. I think it'll be a 2-1, but a relatively comfortable 2-1 for Brighton.
Yeah, and I think that brings us to our final match for this week. It's honestly going to be quite interesting because it's Brentford, who have looked shockingly resilient despite losing, being ransacked, honestly. And this City squad, who, I mean, have they recovered? Are they looking better? There are some positive signs, but at the same time, they're still below Sunderland in the table, man. You tell me what's going to happen in this match.
Yeah, I mean when we did those table videos at the start of the season, I know you had Brentford relegated, I had Wolves relegated, but honestly, those like teams from 13th or like 14th to 17th on the table were looking pretty questionable as to what order they could be in because there were a lot of teams that had lost a lot of crucial players. But yeah, Brentford has recovered well. I mean, you have Thiago, Shada as spearheading attacks. Thiago has clever movement and good finishing. You have Shada to stretch play from the left, create lots of useful spaces for the midfield runners like Henderson, like Yarmouk to exploit. Damsgaard in a central role can link the quick transitions with threatening passes. The press does carry risk because like they can lose possession in advanced positions and it will expose a lot of gaps behind them. But they have a decent defense as well, I want to say. It's certainly questionable how well they'll hold up against Holland and Co. But I think maybe not in this game, but certainly in games against like mid-table, lower table teams, they have a chance to nick a point or even three. And yeah, really for the quality that this roster has lost, it is impressive how well they've done so far. I could have seen them honestly like a point or two above the relegation zone. But they've done well so far. There are a lot of teams that have way underperformed, but I would say these guys have overperformed to start the season.
Yeah, I think honestly, there's a lot of confusing mixed signals for both of these sides because I do think on the counter that is where Brentford thrives the most. They exploited against Chelsea, they exploited against United. City push up their fullbacks a lot, so if you do get Kevin Schade, if you do get Igor Thiago able to take advantage of that, I think Brentford can definitely have their moments, go on a counter and score some goals. But I just think City have more quality. Like I'm not sure. Yeah, Brentford were able to defend against Man United. Were able to defend against Cunha and Sesko and them. But like City is just a completely different level, man. I know they've been inconsistent, but I feel like every time we end up betting against them in this podcast, they always show why they still have that heritage, why they still have this history of dominance, why they're still one of the most threatening teams, even in the state, in English football.
Yeah, I mean, dude, you have so many attacking threats on City. I'm sorry, but I keep coming back to those four teams: City, Arsenal, Liverpool, Chelsea, who had all very big, very strong transfer windows, and you already had so many great players like Holland, like Doku, like Silva. But now we have Reinders coming in the midfield. KDB obviously a big loss, but it seems like they bounced back so quickly. Him and Foden, they can control transitions, dictate tempo. Holland can draw like practically the entire defense, which lets Doku just go right up the left channel with pace, with dribbling. Bernardo on the right. It is like the attack is going to be everywhere. in this match. There will be players all over just waiting for a good pass so that they can find a shot on target. And I think Holland's finishing combined with the creative runs of the wingers ensures that City can and will be able to punish all of Brentford's mistakes, particularly on the counter or if they can get some sustained possession in Brentford's half. Yeah, they can just come at them with like brute force, man. Or if they want, just wait for the opportunity to come. And I think despite how well Brentford have played so far, City will be piling on the pressure, and opportunities will come for them to make a breakthrough. And at that point, it's just, can you finish the goal?
Yeah, I think it's really hard to do tactical analysis on City at this point because the question is really, will they turn on or not? I think a lot of Pep's system this year has been centered around Doku, but he has not been as consistent as last season. But he still had like flashes in certain games, right? So I feel like you never know. So this is the one game I have the least amount of notes on. It's just, is City basically, as you said, will City turn on? Will they finish their chances? Will they play the way that we know they're capable of playing? And I think if so, which I think they will, this match is going to be an easy win for them. I did say Brentford could score on the counter, and I think they will. But if City play the way we know they can, the way like with the quality they have, it should be an easy win for them. So I'm gonna say City go get a comfortable 3-1 win here away from home.
Okay, yeah. And actually, I guess I have the same scoreline as you to close it off. Then, uh,
Once again.
yeah, wonderful, wonderful. I guess I'm guaranteed to at least keep a bit of a lead now, unless you get like a bunch of 3 pointers. But yeah, I don't know. Brentford's last match shows they can obviously start games explosively, exploit early lapses, hit opponents on the break. There is a pretty solid defensive spine with like Collins and Vanderberg. Henderson and Yarmouk can energize the transitions, but they're coming up against City, which is just like City obviously are going to have, even being away, they will have lots of possession and they have the tools to break through just about any defense in the Prem. And Brentford is not getting away with anything against them. Holland can drop deep, link play with Doku, and Silva can open lanes for Foden, for Reinders. They have a combination of control in midfield, overloads on the wing. They can make so many different plays, really. And I think like they just have too much versatility in attack for a team like Brentford to possibly deal with. Brentford will be chasing shadows throughout this whole match. They cannot cover all of City's players. And yeah, I'm going to say City win 3-1. They'll get lots of chances, more than enough that even if their finishing isn't the greatest, like they'll have a comfortable win here.
Yeah. Well, that concludes it for this episode. I think just before we go, I do want to let the viewers know this is the last week, match week before the next international break, and I think Swapdo and I have planned to do a bit of a recap episode. We're gonna, after the end of this match week, take a look at how the Premier League has played out so far, some key storylines, some takeaways, what to look out for the next few matches, and I think we're gonna hope to have that video released sometime early next week after all the matches are done. After that, we'll probably do some more, international football. There's obviously a lot of content all the time with that to talk about. So yeah, I think that's the plan for now.
Yeah, sounds good. Okay, well, thank you for everyone who has watched up to this point. Sorry we couldn't get that episode out last week, but we will hope to be consistent as much as we can throughout the rest of the season. And yeah, we'll see you guys for that next video, recapping all the teams. Have a good
See ya.
one.